Today I'm going to teach you step by step how to make this farmhouse themed Valentine's door swag using the paint stir stick method. Welcome to Stillwater's Wreath Designs. Come on in. Hey friends, it's Nikki here with Stillwater's Wreath Designs. How are you? Come on in. I've received lots of messages asking if we could create some more Valentine door swags on the 5-gallon paint stir stick, and so that's what we'll be making today. Friends, if you are new here to the channel, welcome, welcome. We're so happy to have you. Stillwater's Wreath Designs is all about DIY step-by-step wreath and door swag tutorials. We've got new tutorials uploading every single week. So if you like that sort of thing, I would love for you to hit that subscribe button and join us. And for my friends who have been here on the channel for a while, thank you for coming back. I so appreciate you. You'll find a full materials and supplies list for you below in the description of this video. So if you'd like to recreate this beauty, you can sure do so. Of course, if you'd rather just purchase today's door swag, I'll leave my Etsy link for you below as well. So we're going to use a standard 5-gallon paint stir stick. I actually buy these in bulk from Amazon. I prefer to get them from Amazon, although you can also pick them up at basically any hardware store. But when you buy them from Amazon, they don't have the ruler markings. It's just a blank canvas for you. And so I prefer to grab them from Amazon. Just for reference, the 5-gallon paint stir stick is about 17 inches in length. You're going to need 6 standard pipe cleaners. You'll just want to grab some pipe cleaners that are color coordinated with your design. And the first thing we're going to do is take pipe cleaner number 1, and there's a little bit of an indent here near the top of the paint stir stick. And we're just going to wrap this pipe cleaner right around that indentation. We're going to give it 2 or 3 tight twists. And after you've made those tight twists, then create an X at the top of that pipe cleaner and then just twist those guys around each other. And what we're doing here, guys, is making a loop so that we or our customers can then hang this from their door. So we've just created the door hanger. Now we're going to flip that guy over, and we're going to be adding 5 single pipe cleaners down the base of our paint stir stick. So we're going to add the first one right at the top, directly underneath that hanger that we just added. You're just going to want to center that and give it 2 or 3 tight twists. Just like that. And then you can kind of leave them in a U shape here, or a V. Then we're going to come down to the bottom about an inch or so up from the bottom there. And we're going to add our next pipe cleaner. You're welcome to measure this out if you would like to, friends. I just eyeball it. So again, it's a couple inches from the bottom, or about 1.5 inches from the bottom. I've given it a couple of tight twists, and my pipe cleaners are pointing straight up. We're going to add our next pipe cleaner to the middle of our paint stir stick. And again, give it a couple, 2 or 3 tight twists, and point those guys up. And now we'll add our last 2 in between our first 3. So we'll add 1 in the middle here and 1 in the middle here. Once you've got all of your pipe cleaners added, go ahead and take your hot glue gun and just run a couple of stripes of glue right over those pipe cleaners. That's going to help to anchor those guys down so they don't slide anywhere. Our door swag today is going to have a little bit of a cute farmhouse country vibe to it. We're going to use 2 different colors of 10-inch deco mesh, the metallic red and the burlap colored. Remember, we've got 5 pipe cleaners on our door swag, and each pipe cleaner is going to get 2 pieces of deco mesh. So what we're going to do at this point is get our deco mesh pieces cut. We're going to cut 5 pieces of the burlap or tan colored and 5 pieces of the metallic red at 24 inches in length. So you can use your ruler and scissors to cut that mesh if that's what you've got handy. If you're new to wreath making, I would definitely recommend getting a self-healing mat. That's what you see in the background here. This particular mat is 36 inches by 24. They come in a variety of sizes, and you can cut directly on this mat without harming your workstation. And then you would also use a rotary cutter, which basically works like a mini pizza cutter, and it lets you cut your deco mesh quickly with nice clean lines. And to use it, you basically just roll out that deco mesh to your desired length, in our case, 24 inches. Grab that cutter and just roll it straight up like a pizza cutter. I'll leave a link for these below for you. So go ahead and cut 5 pieces of the red, 5 pieces of the tan at 24 inches in length, and I'll meet you back here. Once you've got your 10 deco mesh pieces cut, go ahead and grab your paint stir stick and bring it back to your work area. By now your glue should be nice and dry. And I would recommend that you also grab a chip clip or a clothespin for this next step. We're going to go ahead and add our deco mesh pieces into the paint stir stick, and we're going to be adding cruffles into our paint stir stick. If you're new to working with deco mesh, friends, it loves to fray. So anything that we can do as creators to help reduce that fray is always ideal. And the cruffle method is a great way to do that. And so we're going to grab a single piece of deco mesh. It doesn't matter what color. I'm going to start with a burlap color, and I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up. And you're going to lay your single piece of deco mesh in front of you, curl side up. I always like to add a weight in the middle of my mesh so that it doesn't curl in on itself. And at the one end, you're going to curl that mesh in 3 times to tuck away that raw edge and prevent that fray. Then grab your clip, pinch that guy down in the middle just to hold it in place, and spin that mesh piece around. And then we're going to curl the other end 3 times to tuck away that raw edge. We'll remove that weight. And now we're just going to scrunch and gather this mesh. Forgive my finger here, friends. I'm nursing a cut. All the way to the end of the piece of that mesh. Release that clip. And you just created a cruffle. And basically what a cruffle is a curl on each end and then a ruffle in the middle, hence the cruffle. And we're going to come to our paint stir stick. You can start at the top or bottom, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to start here at the bottom, and we're going to add that cruffle in. And so for this bottom cruffle, let me just spin my pipe cleaners. I'm going to have that cruffle going horizontally. So I've placed it all the way down to the base of the V of my pipe cleaners, and I'm going to give it a single super tight twist. So it's going to look just like that. And we're going to alternate colors. So since I started with tan, I'm going to go tan, red, tan, red, tan. And we're going to do 1 layer at a time. So now I'll grab a piece of red deco mesh. I'm going to bring that to my work area. Lay something in the middle of that mesh to keep it from rolling up on itself. It's curl side up. I'm going to curl my end here 3 times to tuck away that mesh. Pinch that with my clip. Spin that guy around. And now I'm going to curl the other end 3 times to tuck away that raw edge. And then scrunch and gather that mesh back into my hand. Just like that. Then we'll release that clip. We'll come back to our paint stir stick, and since we went horizontally with our first piece, we'll go vertically with the next. So I'm going to lay that down in the center, all the way down to the base of those pipe cleaners, and give them 1 or 2 super tight twists, just like that. So now let's go ahead and add in our last 3 pieces, alternating colors and directions, and then I'll meet you back here. So I've just finished adding my first layer of deco mesh. So I've got one curl in every single set of pipe cleaners. I've alternated colors and directions. And so we've got a good base going, but it's still looking pretty thin. So we're going to add a second layer of deco mesh into our pipe cleaners, and we're going to go the opposite direction and in the opposite colors. So we'll do one together and then we'll speed ahead. I'm going to start at the bottom again. Last time I used burlap colored in that bottom set of pipe cleaners going horizontally. So this time I'm going to add a red piece going vertically. So we'll be going opposite colors in opposite directions to really make it nice and full. So I've grabbed a piece of red. It's curl side up in my workstation. I'm going to curl those ends in 3 times and pinch that with my clip. Spin that guy around. Curl my opposite end 3 times. And I'm going to ruffle that mesh in the middle here. All the way to the end, and I'll release my clip. We'll pinch that guy in the middle. We'll come back to our pipe cleaner. It's a little bit trickier on the second layer, friends, because you're fighting the mesh on your first layer, so just give yourself some grace. So I'm going to add that right on top, this time going vertically, and I'm going to give my pipe cleaners 2 super duper tight twists, just like that. So now that pipe cleaner's got 2 pieces of deco mesh. So we're going to follow that same process all the way up our paint stir stick, making sure that you alternate colors and directions. So for instance, this next set of pipe cleaners, I had used red on the first layer going vertically. So now I'm going to add a burlap colored cruffle going horizontally. And we'll repeat that process until we've added our second piece to every single set of pipe cleaners, and then I'll meet you back here. Now that we've added our second layer of deco mesh cruffles, look how nice and full this swag is becoming. So remember, it started out as 17 inches in length, and now it's measuring about 24 inches in length and about 11 inches in width. So we've definitely given this guy some amazing fullness. So for this particular door swag, friends, I really wanted to do something with some really relaxing, simple yet beautiful farmhouse vibes. And so we're not going to add any signs or attachments. We're going to build this beauty out with lots of ribbon by way of bows and ribbon tails. And then we're going to add a little bit of greenery in just to really complete that look. So we're going to set this guy off to the side. And what we're going to do is make our bougie bow. So remember, we've got our 5 pipe cleaner ties. We're going to add a bougie bow to the center. And then we're going to add ribbon tail clusters to the upper 2 pipe cleaners and the lower 2. So I've actually grabbed 5 different types of wired ribbon. It doesn't matter what width you use, friends, just make sure that it's wired. That's what really helps maintain a beautiful shape for your bow and your tails. I like to mix it up between 2.5 inch wide ribbon and 1.5 inch wide ribbon, totally up to you. So we're going to start out with the 2.5 inch wide ribbons. So go ahead and grab a good pair of scissors and your ruler, or just use your self-healing mat for measurement purposes. So we're going to start with a 2.5 inch black and white check. I'm going to grab my ruler just so that you can see what we're doing here. I'm going to go ahead and just pull out a couple of feet so it's easy to work with. You're also going to want to have a pipe cleaner on hand, just a standard length that matches your ribbon choice, and fold that guy into a loose V and have him sitting nearby, because we'll be using this to secure our bow once we get that finished. So the first thing I'm going to do is measure out approximately a 6.5 inch tail. And guys, not looking for perfection here, no one's going to be measuring. So I've just pinched that in my hand, and then I want a 5 inch loop. And so to get a 5 inch loop, just measure out to the 10 inch mark, give that a pinch, fold that back into your hand. Then we're going to make our second loop, also at 10 inches, to give us that 5-inch loop once we're finished. Give that a good pinch and fold that back into your hand. And now we'll measure out our tail at 6.5 inches and trim off our excess bit of ribbon. We're just going to be making 2 loops and 2 tails of every ribbon type. So I'm going to let my left hand be my holding hand and my right hand be my working hand. We're going to move on to our next ribbon. Same measurements. So we're going to measure a 6.5-inch tail and give that a pinch. Give it a twist. Let's roll some of that out here. A hard twist. You always want that pretty side up. We're going to lay that right on top of the last ribbon that we used. And now I don't need to measure, friends. I can just eyeball and use my previous loops as my guide. If you're not comfortable doing that, just go ahead and use your ruler. Once you have them in your hand, you can always marry them up onto one another like that to make sure that they land in the same place. And then a 6.5-inch tail, and we'll cut that guy off. Next, we're going to use this 1.5-inch striped ribbon, super cute. We're going to keep a 6-inch tail from here on out. So I'm going to find that 6-inch mark, give that a pinch, lay that in my hand right on top of my previous. I'm going to give that ribbon a hard twist. You always want that pretty side up. And I want my loops about 1/2 inch shorter. So I'm just going to eyeball. They're about 1/2 inch shorter. I'm going to give that a hard twist. Make one more loop, also 1/2 inch shorter. We'll make sure they meet at the same spot, and they do. And then we're going to cut off our 6-inch tail. Next, we're going to use our 1.5-inch burlap with black trim. We'll be doing that 6-inch tail. Give that a pinch, lay it in our hand, give that a nice hard twist. We're going to be making those loops approximately the same size as our previous loops. Give it a hard twist. And make sure those loops are the same, and they are. And measure out that tail at 6 inches and trim that guy off. Last but not least, we've got our heart ribbon. So we'll find that 6-inch to 6.5-inch spot. It's a really stiff ribbon, so I'm going to put that underneath my hand. Give that a really hard twist. And we're going to make those loops just about 1/4 inch smaller than our previous loops. So between 4 and 4.5-inch loops. Remember, you can always marry them up onto one another to make sure they're the right length. And then we'll cut off a 6-inch tail. So now we're going to grab that pipe cleaner we had pulled out earlier and wrap that around our bow stack here. And you want the open end on the back side. Forgive my process here, friends, it's a little clunky since I'm nursing a cut. And you're going to wrap that around and just really pull that guy as absolutely as tight as you can get it. Tight, tight, tight. Once you've got that nice and tight, just twist those pipe cleaners 2 or 3 times just to really secure that guy in. And now I'm going to do a rough fluff of my bow or my ribbon stack. And so I just take my pipe cleaners and put it between a couple of my fingers to hold it in place. And so I like to start at the bottom. So if I've got a tail on the left, I want a loop on the right, and then on the other side. So it'll go loop, loop, tail, tail. And you're basically forming an X. So if you can see that, I've got an X pattern with the loops and an X pattern with those tails. And then with my red ribbon, we'll go the opposite way. we'll have those loops right above those tails, and then the tail above the loop. And we'll repeat that process on the bottom. And not looking for perfection, guys. We're going to fluff this guy again once we get it into our door swag. And I'm just repeating that process. The loops and tails back and forth in alternating directions. So once you've got that rough fluff, we're going to add that guy into our door swag. So I'm going to take my scissors and just trim off that excess bit of pipe cleaner that we used to secure our bow. I'm also going to take my scissors and trim off those excess bits of pipe cleaners from that middle set of pipe cleaners. Because our bow stack is so thick, for this particular bow, we're going to use a 20 gauge floral wire stem. I'm just going to fold that guy into a loose V. I'm going to wrap that right around the center of our bow stack and flip that guy upside down. And then I'm going to give it just a single tight twist here, just so it doesn't slide around. Then we're going to come back into our swag and run those floral wire stems right beside that central pipe cleaner that we just trimmed off. And then once you get it to the back side, just go ahead and give that guy 3 or 4 tight twists. Make sure you're happy with that bow placement. You want to tighten that at about 80% tension. You want it nice and secure, but you don't want to tie it so tightly that it recedes too far into your swag. So we've just trimmed off those excess bits of floral wire. I'm going to pinch those together and then just kind of point them back down into that pipe cleaner so that it's not a sharp edge. Now we can flip this guy over, and we're going to take a couple minutes and do that final fluff on our bow. So just follow that same recipe I shared with you at the beginning, starting at the bottom, making an X with each layer of ribbon, and alternate between those tails and loops, and then I'll meet you back here. So once you've got that bow fluffed out, go ahead and angle cut or dovetail those ends. I'm going to go ahead and dovetail. To dovetail, you're just going to fold that ribbon tail in half, and then on the folded side, not the open side, come down about 3/4 of an inch and cut up diagonally to that corner to give you that nice, pretty V. How stinking cute. All right, let's set this guy off to the side and work on some tails. Now we're going to add our tail clusters to our very top set of pipe cleaners and our very bottom. And so we're going to cut 2 strips because we'll be using 1 piece for each set of pipe cleaners. So go ahead and cut 2 pieces of every single ribbon at 12 inches in length. Dovetail those ends, and I'll meet you back here. I've got all of my ribbon strips cut and my ends dovetailed, and so now we're going to make our tail clusters. We're going to start with a 2.5 inch and work our way up in that same pattern that we used for a bow. So I'm going to grab my first ribbon, which is the 2.5 inch buffalo checked. I'm just going to eyeball it to find that center and give it a pinch. You're welcome to measure if that's easier for you. We'll do the second 2.5 inch ribbon, and I'm going to lay that right on top. I'm not going to worry about spreading those out yet. We'll use our third ribbon, laying that guy on top. Our fourth ribbon, and our fifth ribbon. This one's a really stiff ribbon. So I'm just laying those all in my hand just like that. Let's keep those guys out of the way. I'm going to come to my door swag, to that very bottom set of pipe cleaners, and I'm going to lay that stack right down into the base of those pipe cleaners and give them 2 or 3 super duper tight twists. Then I'm going to use my needle nose pliers and trim the excess bits of pipe cleaner off. We don't need those. And toss them away. And now we can fluff out our ribbon tails. I'm just going to make an X pattern just like I did before, guys, with those 2.5-inch ribbons. I'm starting from the bottom, as you can see. And then I'll do the same thing with that next layer. And then for that middle heart ribbon, I'm just going to kind of let it go whimsically. So once I've got that X pattern made, I'm going to take my fingers, starting at the bottom, and pull those ribbons between my fingers, kind of up and over, which is going to give them this cute little bump. That's why we like to use wired ribbon, guys, because it holds its shape. It's got good memory. All right, now that we've got our tail cluster added to the lower set of pipe cleaners on our swag, we're going to repeat that same process for the uppermost set of pipe cleaners on our swag. So let's speed ahead and we'll get those added in. How stinking cute is this coming along, guys? Oh my goodness. Now we've got 2 more sets of tails to make for the 2nd and 4th pipe cleaners that are buried between our other ribbon bundles. And so I want you to choose your 2 favorite ribbons that are the 1.5-inch width. I'm going to use these 2, and we're going to make 2 pieces at 10 inches in length of each of those 2 favorites. And we're going to dovetail those ends, and then I'll meet you back here. Once you've got your ribbon tails trimmed, we're going to use 1 of each. And we're going to put one on top of the other. Doesn't matter which one's first. You're going to eyeball to find that center and just give it a pinch in your fingers. And then come into that set of pipe cleaners. Add those tails down in and give those pipe cleaners 2 or 3 super tight twists, and then go ahead and trim off that excess bit with your small snips or scissors. And then once you get those ends trimmed, just go ahead and pull those tails into a narrow X. Run your fingers over them if you would like to give them that little bit of a curvature, just like that. And then we're going to do that same process to that last set of pipe cleaners, which is nestled between the 1st and the 3rd. Look how stinking cute that is, guys. No sign. We just let the beauty and simplicity of our ribbon do the talking, and what a beautiful statement piece. We've got 1 more step. I've got a 1.5-inch foam glitter heart that I got from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to give that a couple of squirts of glue on the back and just nestle it in whimsically here between our bows in that center point. So just a couple of dollops of hot glue, being mindful not to touch that guy. That was smart. We're going to tuck that in there and then let that be while it dries. And then we're going to add just a few pieces of greenery. This is a greenery vine bush from Hobby Lobby. Friends, if you are new to wreath making, you will soon discover that florals are nearly always going to be the most expensive part of wreath making. So just a quick pro tip for you, Hobby Lobby has all of their florals on sale for at least 40% off every other week. So when it's time to buy florals, make sure you're mindful of that sale. And I really love this viney bush because you get a ton of pieces out of it. It's really a heavy duty piece, and so it withstands the elements pretty well. And so what I do is, you can see there's just like little fingerlings all along this vine, and I cut them off right at the base. So they're a couple of inches long and look like that. And then I just kind of sprinkle them throughout my design. So I'm going to cut off 6 of them or so. We can always cut more if we need. And I'm definitely going to add 1 to the center of each of my ribbon tail bundles. And so I'm just going to run a 1/2 inch bead of glue right over that little tail there and just stick that right at the center. I'm going to hold it for about 15 seconds to give it some time to grab. Friends, I do recommend using Gorilla Glue sticks. Doesn't matter what gun you really use, but I have found over the years that Gorilla Glue sticks really withstand the heat and the cold outside. They don't come undone. So we've added that first piece in. I'm going to come in here to my double ribbon tail bundle here that we just added. I've added a little plop of glue. Just going to whittle my way in there and stick that guy in there as well. I'm going to spin this around, and we're going to add one at the center of our upper ribbon tail bundles. I always like to lean those right up against where we've cut off that pipe cleaner, because those pipe cleaner nubs are a really good adherence for our greenery. Now I'm going to add one on either side of that middle bougie bow that we added. Just kind of whimsically, guys. You can add as many or as few of these as you wish. This is just a recipe. I just think that greenery gives it a little bit more of a farmhouse feel. And this beauty is finished. Oh my goodness, how stinking cute. Thank you for spending time creating with me today. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps my little channel to grow. Thanks for spending time with me today, friends. Happy crafting.